We made it! We made it to 10,000 subscribers, and I just want to thank each and every one of you for making my YouTube journey so much fun. A special thank you to those who support me on Patreon, or who have bought some merchandise. I received over 100 questions, so I'm going to try and answer each one as briefly as possible. If I missed your question, I apologize in advance. A few I skipped because I answered the question somewhere else in the video. I'm also hoping to do a live stream sometime soon with Genetically Modified Skeptic. The stream will depend on his availability. With all that out of the way, let's jump into your questions. What is the nature of reality? What is the meaning of existence, women, lobster, or turtle? In order. That's a subject for scientists and philosophers, and not one I can really address here without making this video extremely long. The meaning is whatever you make it. I'm on board with women, and I'd say lobster. Godless Cranium, do you play World of Warcraft? You've used backgrounds from the game before? If yes, Alliance or Horde? I have played. I enjoyed the game, but I was never addicted to it like some people. I'm all over the Horde though. Godless Cranium, do you have any plans to make videos about other religions? Yes, although to be honest, I don't feel much urgency to do so at this time. I hope I'm not too late with my question, Godless. Let us for a moment assume there are gods in existence, not as described by Christianity and Islam, as this is all-knowing invisible being, but as the Nordic and Roman concept where you have a Parthenon of gods, who each controls part of the universe. These gods were not by a long shot perfect, and none of them were all-knowing. They each had their own flaws. They were just vastly superior to humans and could perform magic, for lack of a better term. These gods have taken an interest in Earth. For all we know, they might have created it, but at any rate, they have it as their playground again, for a lack of a better term. So, sounds like a D&D book. Some wants to protect it and make it flourish. Others want to wreak havoc on it. You have irrefutable proof that these gods exist, and they are as powerful as the stories about them goes, like Thor, for example, being able to produce lightning bolts. Would you pledge allegiance to one of these gods? If so, who and why not if you wouldn't pledge allegiance to any of them? You can pick from any Parthenon, as they are, in my opinion, basically the same with different names. Short answer, I'd pledge my allegiance to the gods that wish to protect and make our planet flourish, because it would be in my self-interest to do so. If God was a pancake, would you eat that pancake? Hell yes. Godless Cranium, how do you like to eat your babies? With ketchup and a side of puppy. Godless Cranium, who, what, where, when, why, and how?
The guy playing first base.
Who is on first, Lou?
What are you asking me for?
Don't get excited. I'm saying who...
I'm asking you a simple question. Who's on first?
Yes.
Well, go ahead and tell me.
That's it.
That's who? I'm asking you, what's the guy's name on first base?
Oh, no. What's on second?
How old are you? Would you rather be raped by a donkey or raped by a mule? Also, would you go gay for Stalin? Because I know I would. In order, too old. I'd rather not be raped at all, but if I had to choose, I would choose a donkey. I believe they are considerably smaller than most mules, and no, I wouldn't go gay for Stalin. He was a horrible human being. Godless Cranium, aren't you concerned that atheists like Sam Harris go around saying love doesn't exist, exactly as Bible says thousands of years ago? Read 1 John chapter 1. Get a King James Bible and believe. Aren't you concerned that atheists deny worldwide flood, exactly as foretold thousands of years ago, when the geological column that admittedly does not exist and was made up by a lawyer who admitted wanted to attack Moses? Get a King James Bible and believe. Jesus loves you. Jesus Christ is the truth, the way, and the life. Aren't you concerned that cashless society being pushed to control who can buy and sell, exactly as foretold thousands of years ago before electronics and so on? I don't think Sam has said love doesn't exist. No, I'm not particularly concerned about any of those things. If I were, I might invest in a tinfoil hat, though. You can never be too careful. Are there atheists you know that, similar to those of the theists you've disproven before, have made false points in order to, just in that moment, protect their argument? Shortly, do you know atheists that lie to prove the lack of God? No, but I don't know a crazy number of atheists in real life. Most atheists I do know are atheists because they see no reason to believe in the claims that religions make. In other words, they have no reason to lie. If someone declines an event you host because it's hosted on a Sunday and they have church, but they respond very aggressively towards you and start insulting your lack of faith, how would you respond? Yes, that's happened to me. That happened to you. I tend to cut negativity from my life. I think life is too short to waste it on toxic people. So I guess it would depend on who that person was and how important they were to me. I would try to de-escalate the situation, but if they continued to insult me, I'd likely distance myself from them. Can I bang you? I think Mrs. Cranium would fight you. Do your parents know you are an atheist? My father passed away a few years ago. He knew I had doubts. I'm not sure my mother has processed the fact that I'm an atheist, although I've told her I don't believe. She still often talks as if I do believe, though. Do you have a list of sarcastic responses and one-liners that you have had to leave out of your response videos? If so, could you do a compilation? Or would that offend too many people? Not often. There have been a few times where I deleted something I thought was too inflammatory or I thought would be taken as a personal attack. How do you keep such a calm manner in your videos? Is there a particular technique you use to sound more reasonable and even-tempered? It's just my nature, I think. I talk quietly and not a lot of things make me angry. I'm not the most emotional of people, although I have my moments, I guess. How big are your pecs and abs? I wish they were bigger. What's your view on the anti-vaxxers and pro-homeopathy believers that appear to be a growing number of people? Could it be that with a drop in religiosity and people are turning elsewhere to believe in magical unwarranted claims and become anti-science? I'm against them. I think they're often conspiracy theory nuts and pose a danger to society, especially the anti-vaxxers. For the second part of your question, I'd have to say I agree with Logic on this point, at least the point I heard him make on Boogeyman's channel a while ago. Here it is.
I don't think the fundamental problem is religion. I think the fundamental problem is that religion is a symptom, not the disease. The disease is a lack of critical thought. The disease is a lack of ability to take something that you feel emotional about and really consider if it's actually true, if you have any good reason to believe it. People get brought up in stuff, Christianity, Islam, whatever, you know, even just their culture, like even forget religion. There are so many things that you're brought up in school to believe. There are so many things that you're brought up by your family or your society to believe. Just basic things like, you know, the best way to hold a fork. It's all the same thing. You got to look at it and say, is that really true? And that's the fundamental problem. You know, when I say I'm anti-theist, yes, I am anti-theist, but it's because I want the symptom to end. I also want the disease to end. I want people to be able to take a step back and wake up every morning and ask themselves about everything, right? Like you wake up in the morning and you go, and you think of something. You think of something that you believe, and you start interrogating it. You start going, is that really true? Why is that true? How do I know that's true? That's what I want.
When did you become an atheist and what made you switch? I actively started calling myself an atheist in my early 20s. Long story short, I switched because the Bible didn't make any sense, and once I had investigated the claims, I realized it was nonsense. How sympathetic to deistic God or pantheism are you? I only ask as you seem to be more openly comfortable with that idea than you are of the personal God for obvious reasons. I think people who believe in a deistic God are still contributing to the normalization of God belief and believing in things on insufficient evidence. However, they also don't try to legislate those beliefs or tell me that their specific God wants me to live my life in a specific way. In that way, I think they're less dangerous to society. What is the diameter of your areola? Fucked if I know. What are some of your favorite thought-provoking movies and TV shows? Appreciate all your hard work. Keep doing what you're doing. Love from the Bible Belt in Texas. Thank you. I really enjoyed Cosmos. I also watch a lot of the documentaries on Netflix. As far as movies, I think American History X was a fantastic movie and very thought-provoking. It's likely one of my top 3 movies of all time, but most certainly it's in my top 10. Question, do you take video requests? Yep, people often send me videos they would like me to respond to. It makes my job easier and I appreciate their effort. I don't always respond to those videos or promise that I will. Why do you wear a mask? You're a cartoon. That's how Marvin drew me. What's behind that mask? I'm glad you asked. Are you going to feature this comment? Yes. Yes, I am. Have you ever looked at doing some response videos on Stephen Meyer and the Discovery Institute? No, but I will now. Like many, I've ummed and awed over several questions for you, but I think I finally hit on the most important one. If this is a consular ship, where is the ambassador?
If this is a consular ship, where is the ambassador?
I do not work for the dark side. A couple questions. Have you ever been religious? Also, are you from a religious family? What kind of literature do you recommend? Who are your favorite speakers that challenge religion? I was religious. My family was fairly religious and still is. Not sure what I'd recommend as far as literature goes, but I'm currently reading Ethics in the Real World by Peter Singer, Thus Spoke Zarathustra by Friedrich Nietzsche, The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt, and The Way of Strangers by Graham Wood. All of which are good reads if you're interested in those sorts of things. As far as speakers, I really like Ayaan Hirsi Ali and Sam Harris. How are you so awesome? Thanks, but I don't think I am. Do you think the internet laws in China will change soon so we can see more atheists from there popping in? I know the irreligious population there is high. I hope the internet laws are relaxed in China, but I don't see that happening in the near future. What are your thoughts on how atheists and atheism are treated in today's society? Depends which society you're talking about. Atheists in much of Europe would likely be treated as equals, while those in the Middle East have good reason to fear for their life. I think globally we could do a better job of treating atheists like thinking human beings. What apologist claims do you find the most interesting to tackle? Fine-tuning, cosmological? Are the philosophical arguments harder to approach than literal arguments that can be easily refuted with scientific evidence? Side note, my tank top is on the way, can't wait. At this point, I find philosophical arguments more difficult and largely more interesting than scientific arguments. However, I'm not a trained philosopher, so I also find them more challenging to address. And thank you very, very much for ordering the tank. I can't wait to share the picture. I do have a question. So over the last 6 to 8 months, I've been organizing a get-together discussion and on occasion an all-out debate of and on religion. The first couple were very small and informal, but word spread. I encourage any and all views to attend and participate. I've kept it as word of mouth for a few reasons, which I won't get into here. Anyway, since about May, turnout has been increasing faster than I could have ever expected or hoped. We keep it peaceful, though there has been once or twice I got, passionate. I haven't spoken a bit and kind of just remained as an organizer, moderator, producer, that sort of thing. So over the last 2 or so events, I've been asked by all sides to speak, so I finally agreed that at either the next one or the one after I'd do a presentation. May I use clips of your videos, and if I have any questions on any info, contact you through this channel if needed. Also, thanks for sparing your free time for what you do, and yes, I take an anti-theist stance for anyone wondering. I'll cite all my sources and give credit to everyone I use. Congratulations on the successful group. That's awesome. You can use any of my videos, and I can be contacted through email, Twitter DM, or Facebook. All of the relevant links are in the description box. Good luck with your presentation. In episode 359 of the Ben Shapiro podcast, during the last 10 minutes, he rants on religion and science. A rational freedom-based system is dependent on God, who has created us in his image. He makes a few good points, but that are difficult to argue. Not much of a question, but I'm curious about your take on it. I listened to the clip and I think he's wrong. His entire argument rests on God being needed for a rational universe, and I see no reason to believe that. He says the left is saying that science can't be believed, but I don't see that as a left thing. People from both sides of the political spectrum can do that. And over the course of history, the anti-science narrative has been largely propped up by the religious using their religious texts. In all of these sorts of discussions, I'd rather be basing my opinions, actions, and indeed societies in general on what is true. I don't agree with the utilitarian arguments, and I think it's absurd to argue that we should teach something is true based on crap evidence because we think it might have some utility. May you tickle my testicles? I may not. Suck or no suck? Suck. Was there a moment when you seriously believed in a god and why? Yes, and because I was taught he was real by the authority figures in my life. Godless Cranium, I love your videos and content. You do an excellent job revealing how damaging religion can be to people and society. I have 2 questions I've wanted to ask. 1, was there a point in your life when you were religious and believed in a god or anything supernatural? 2, what made you want to start a channel dedicated to challenging religious ideology? Again, I love your channel and what you're doing with it. I can't wait to see what you bring us next. Cheers from Memo. Thank you very much for the kind words. I just answered the first question, but as to your second question, I wrote a blog and this channel is essentially my blog in video format. I find religion fascinating, and I think it's a topic that touches on several other topics that I find interesting, such as ethics, philosophy, and science. Would you ever do a chick tract with the Bible Reloaded channel? I'd love to do that. That would be great. I'm in church as I type this. I'm sorry. I hate having to be a secret atheist. I'm just waiting for the right opportunity to tell my family, and I honestly can't wait. Until then, do you have a PSN account? I do. I think it's Ghost Clash. What are some methods you use when talking about God, religion, etc. to stop yourself from turning the conversation into a huge joke? It's always good to debate things, and even though the other person might have some really crazy ideas, it doesn't help to just pick on them and make fun of their beliefs. Still, when they are talking about things like all animals being on a single boat, burning bushes, and a man in the sky watching you poo, it gets really hard not to turn all of that into a huge joke. I generally try to remember what it felt like to believe such silly nonsense. In other words, I try to empathize. I also try to keep in mind that I'm unlikely to change their mind if they feel as though I'm making fun of them on a personal level. Very few of us do our best listening when we feel as though we're being personally attacked. What do you think the likelihood is of actually ending the destructive nature of religion will happen? I don't know that it will ever end, but my goal is to minimize it the best I can using nonviolent methods. What does your avatar represent? How did you choose it? It doesn't represent anything. I asked Marvin Animations to draw me an avatar, and he listened to a few of my old videos and drew something he thought best represented my style. Are you into any sort of pop culture like gaming, movies, TV, or literature? All of those? I love all of those things. What argument for God do you find to be the most difficult to refute? Philosophical ones? How do you like your babies prepared to eat? Well done. Who is your favorite out of the Four Horsemen? Sam Harris. What town hall level are you on Clash? Town hall 11? Here's my base. Batman or Superman? Gotta ask the tough questions. Batman by a mile. Have you ever watched the YouTube channel Underlings? If so, what are your thoughts on it? If you haven't watched it, here's a link. What is the most ridiculous claim a theist has ever made? I've never watched Underlings, not sure what the most ridiculous claim is, but I did get a comment the other day that boiled down to words though. He basically said that because we have language and DNA is a sort of language, this proves God. What's your relationship status? Are you with a person you love? Are you single? Currently common law. I'm deeply in love with my girlfriend. She brightens every one of my days. What do you think about nihilism? Is that a point of view you would agree with? I'm neither a nihilist or a theist, just your average atheist, but I find it interesting to talk about a subject like this. I think the meaning of life is what you make of it, but on the other hand, only humans try to give their life meaning, a purpose. A meaning of life isn't necessary, so nihilists may have a point there. I don't agree with nihilism. I think it's a dead-end street. I think it's possible to accept moral principles without believing in a deity. I don't think life is meaningless, and I'm not sure why someone would depend on an invisible outside entity to give their life meaning. But if God is needed for meaning, does that make God's life meaningless? Is he the ultimate nihilist? Do you watch the entire video when reacting to it, or just segments and create the video as you go along, or something else? I watch the entire video. While making the video, I often listen to it several more times. Have you ever spoken with God before? If not, you could check out his YouTube channel sometime. His YouTube channel is Lord Stephen Christ. Nope, never had the pleasure. I believe I'm correct in saying that you were once a believer in Christianity, so my question is, do you ever find yourself sympathizing with any of the apologists you respond to? A better way of asking is, maybe, can you get inside their heads? Not the aggressive liars, but the ones who are genuinely hanging on to their faith. Any faith, no reason to ask, just curiosity. I do sympathize with them. It would be more accurate to say that I empathize with them, though. My question to you is, why do you suppose so many people are so easily indoctrinated while others seem to have a natural immunity? I have my own answers, but appreciate hearing opinions on the subject. Well, there's so many reasons, including childhood indoctrination, the ability to use critical thinking skills, our species needs to have an answer for everything, even if it's a bad answer, and so forth. I think some people are just more prone to believing things on bad evidence. Which other atheist posters do you watch on YouTube, if any? Genetically Modified Skeptic, Logic, Rachel Oates, Holy Kool-Aid, Bible Reloaded, Inane Dragon, and more. While I watch some of the older atheist channels like Armored Skeptic, I really like the direction some of the newer channels are going in. How do you feel about tolerant, peaceful Christians that respect secular society and publicly speak out against the fundamentalist right that do not respect it at all? I'm on their side when it comes to tolerance and their calling out of the fundamentalists, but I also view them as a smaller part of the problem, because they normalize belief in invisible supernatural beings. If you had one-time use of a time machine, what historical event would you choose to see firsthand, and why? That's a hard one. It would likely be to see something that is an historical mystery, like who was Jack the Ripper or something like that. Why do you pretend to be an atheist? Funny how in times of crisis we all find ourselves crying out to God. Is it because we humans are born with a biological predisposition to believing in God? If so, then why pretend otherwise? I don't pretend to be an atheist. I am an atheist. A better question would have been why some religious people presume to tell me what I believe and go so far as to play make-believe and pretend like atheists don't exist. Simple question, what state are you in? Not asking for an address, just curious as to what state you're in. I'm in Ontario, Canada. I hear a lot of people from where I live say that our future is doomed since Muslims reproduce really fast and they will take over. That's not true, is it? No, I don't think it's true, although I do think we need to have honest discussions about Islam as a belief system. What is your aspiration in life? To continue to learn and grow as a human being. What's your opinion on genetic modified or produced food, and are there any differences between genetic meat and genetic fruits or crops in your opinion? Honestly, I don't know enough about the subject to give it a really good response, but I think GM foods are fine. Are you a boy? If you aren't, what do you sexually identify yourself? Would you be an attack helicopter? I'm most definitely a boy. Your facial expressions are based on Spider-Man, aren't they? No, but that would be cool if they were. Congrats on 10K. What channels inspire you, or just which do you enjoy? Upcoming collaborations. Lots of different channels inspire me, like the ones I've mentioned already, as well as channels like Philip DeFranco, Tim Pool, and so forth. I like how they start conversations and aren't prone to hysterics or outrage. As for collaborations, I'm supposed to be doing one with Holy Kool-Aid, but it's been on the rocks for a while. Neither one of us have a lot of time, so hopefully we can get that out there sometime soon. I only recently found your channel, so pardon me if this is already common knowledge, but what was your religious upbringing? Were you raised in a particular faith, or were you blessed with the ability to skip that chapter? Welcome to my channel, and thanks for the question. I grew up as a Presbyterian. I wasn't able to skip that chapter, but a part of me is glad that is the case, because I wouldn't be the same person I am now, and I don't think I'd have the ability to empathize with religious people like I can now. Is there any logic in commenting in Christian channels? Yes, I think there is. If I didn't think there was any use in talking to religious people, I wouldn't bother with this channel. If religion never existed, how far ahead do you think we'd be scientifically in comparison to where we are now? There's no real way to put a number on that, but I think it's safe to say that we'd be far more advanced scientifically. Will you attend the celebration of St. Satan's Day? No. I will worship my Dark Lord in the shadows, as he would want it. If God exists, where do you think you will go after you die? Depends which God you're talking about. I don't think you go anywhere, at least not the conscious part that makes you you. Thoughts on Scientology? It's harmful nonsense, like all religions. Any advice on how to reduce the brainwashing of religion on children, since we all know just how much religion needs to brainwash people as young as possible? Also, would you consider doing a video on religious indoctrination of children? Love your work, thanks. I think teaching critical thinking skills and trying to pass on a love for reading would do wonders to reduce religious influences. And yes, I would consider doing a video on religious indoctrination of children. Who has better animation skills in your opinion, you or Bionic Dance? Bionic Dance, hands down. She's an animator, I am not. If you had to have a religion, which one would you pick? Cosmic Skeptic was asked this and he said Christianity, kind of a boring answer I found. I myself would pick one of the wacky, fun, self-centered ones that hardly anybody follows. If I'm going to believe in bullshit, then it may as well be some crazy, awesome bullshit that teaches me that I'm the best and not something that teaches me that I'm an unworthy sack of shit. Who else wants him to answer this? Secular humanism, I would pick, but I guess that's kind of boring. But if you're talking about a religion that has a certain amount of woo involved, I'd say Buddhism. I have 2 questions. P.S. Sorry for my bad writing. I speak Spanish. Cheers from Puerto Rico. 1. Do you believe other scientific theories like the multiverse, brain, white holes, etc.? 2, like my previous question about the multiverse, if it is proven, does that prove a god and or other supernatural things to a certain extent? An agnostic. Just pointing that out. Love your videos. Thank you very much. I find concepts like the multiverse hypothesis interesting, but believe they don't have enough evidence to elevate them to a scientific theory. And no, I don't think a multiverse would prove a god exists. It would likely have the opposite effect, since arguments like the argument from design, which already fails on several levels, would be utterly destroyed if a multiverse theory was accepted as truth. Do you ever feel a pride in knowing you are bringing logic and knowledge to the world? Do you ever get a selfish pride in finding out that you are deconverting people? No, not really. I feel pride when I make a video I think is pretty good at the time. I do feel some pride when I receive comments or messages telling me that my channel has helped them in some way. I wonder how static shock was described by ancient cloth-wearing peoples in arid climates. Do you suppose the phenomena was understood to be of the earth, or could it have appealed to the occult? Not sure, but I find it likely that someone somewhere tried to fool someone else into believing they were the source, or that they had direct communication with the thing that had caused it. 2 trains are moving towards each other, one moving 70 kilometers an hour, the other 50 kilometers per hour. They are 5,647.4 meters away from each other. How long until they collide? I suck in math. In other words,
he is full. No way about it.
Who's your favorite musical artist? Ozzy Osbourne. There's only really one question that ever really matters in life. Which was better? Voltron, lions, or vehicles? I didn't know what this was referring to, but after looking it up, lions for sure. Who wouldn't want to ride around in a mechanized lion? And the complete robot looks way better than the vehicle version. What inspired you to create a channel dedicated to refuting religious arguments? I read the news, and I'm surrounded by people who think an invisible supernatural entity has a personal interest in their lives, while millions of people suffer and die each year from hunger and preventable diseases, many of whom do so while crying out to the same God these people think help them find their car keys. That's what motivates me. Not exactly a question, but anyways, I'm an atheist, but as we can't disprove him, I can agree to 3 possibilities. 1, there is no God. 2, there is a God who created the universe, but now he can't change anything that's happening. In that sense, we can say we can be as thankful as to our parents for giving birth to us, but can't pray to him. 3, he is there and he is powerful, but doesn't want to interact with this world. In that sense, he's a douchebag. What are your thoughts on this? And yeah, do you watch anime? Which is your favorite, and what are you watching right now? Love your content. Wish you would do YouTube full time soon. I do not watch anime. I think we can disprove gods that come with holy books. Internal contradictions are enough to show these books aren't likely to be true. And thanks. I don't think that will ever happen. I'm not even sure how plausible such a thing would be, since YouTube is notoriously unreliable in terms of their terms of service and so forth. Maybe part-time would be a doable thing. Hey, any thoughts on your Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau? Not a big fan. I think he got elected because of his good looks, his father, and because he didn't run against anyone who people recognized or took seriously. I think he's done some embarrassing things, such as talk about how much of a feminist he is every 2 seconds, while at the same time not blinking an eye when addressing a segregated mosque. There are a few things I do like about him, such as his willingness to listen to people even when they're mocking or criticizing him. I think we could use more of that and less demonization. I'd also vote for him over either Hillary Clinton or Trump. Fuck, marry, or kill Steven Crowder, Stefan Molyneux, and Alex Jones. I propose a fourth option. Laugh at. Is it fair to tell a pedophile joke to a Catholic priest, especially after he says something on same-sex marriage? I can't see why not, but they should be reminded at every opportunity that their organization moved around child predators, and they have no business preaching about morality. Throughout history, the Catholic Church has been responsible for several atrocities. Who are some of your favorite YouTubers with which you routinely or fundamentally disagree? I watch Jordan Peterson and disagree with him fairly regularly. Secular Talk is another one I often disagree with, but watch. Anthony Brian Logan is another. I often watch things that I disagree with. What are your thoughts on the religious instantly trying to start to talk down to you once they find out you're an atheist? I've run into this many times. Sometimes I just don't have the energy to argue with a brick wall. I generally try to keep my cool and talk to them in a reasonable manner, rather than escalate the situation. I find this often works, but as I said earlier, if I feel that the conversation isn't going to be productive, I generally choose to walk away. Take a political compass test and show the results and explain why you think you got them. I actually did this in a live stream. I'll link it below. I was leftist libertarian in my views. I think when push comes to shove, I generally lean liberal. I'm for universal healthcare, same-sex marriage, and so forth. There are areas where I might lean conservative, but overall I'd say the test was fairly accurate in describing my views. What do you wish you could do better on your channel? I wish I could do everything better, especially sound. I'm planning on using any income I make from this channel to buy a better microphone and boom arm. That will probably take quite a while though. For now I'll have to make do with what I have. Did you have any problems when you told people you were an atheist? Not really. I usually get weird looks, but I can take it. I do find it funny that those who believe in an invisible supernatural deity think I'm the one who's weird for not believing in it. That's what I mean about moderates normalizing such beliefs. Are your friends or family aware of your channel? If so, what do they think of it? No. The only one who knows is my girlfriend. She thinks I waste too much time working on my channel, but supports me because she knows I enjoy it. I've been working on AI and machine learning for a couple years now, and will soon be a freshman at college studying it as well, leading me to my question. Do you believe humans will one day create a fully sentient AI? And how do you think this would affect atheist views on consciousness if we did? I do think we will create a conscious machine. Not entirely sure it will happen, but I think the probability is high. I think if that day ever comes, the religious will try to fit that into their belief system, like many of them do now with theories like evolution. Do you have a foot fetish? No. Do you like Adventure Time? My profile pic is actually me as Marceline. It was made by my friend. Sorry, but can't say that I do like them. If you could learn one thing you don't know, what would it be? Physics. I wish I were better at math, but I find it so very boring. Do you have any advice to give a pessimistic nihilist on how to see that the lives of the general population are worthwhile? My brother is going through that right now in his life, and I could use the advice. He's not homicidal, but his apathy for most human beings is concerning to myself and other family members. Any response would be appreciated. I think it might be helpful to seek professional help. He or she might have issues they need to work through with a qualified therapist. I'm sorry I couldn't be more help, but I don't want to give bad advice that might lead to your friend worsening in some way. Any plans for a face reveal? Not at this time. I actually enjoy my anonymity, but I try to still act the way I would if I weren't anonymous. What was your most favorite video that you worked on for this channel? I don't really have one. I have the most fun making videos where I can inject some humor. So that's it. All 101 questions. Thanks to all of you who asked the questions. I can't thank you all enough for supporting my channel and helping me to reach 10,000 subscribers. It's truly mind-blowing. Have a wonderful day. Take care and cheers.